Okay, so it's Gene thinking freely again, part 2, Egypt. I really don't care. I read some of the comments of the video I done on Egypt yesterday or hours ago, and I don't care what Graham Hancock has to say on the artifacts of Egypt. If you ask me my truth, full opinion, Egypt has inherited, I think, a lot of its artifacts and claimed it as their own. I think the pyramids probably are more along the lines of about 100,000 years old, and that goes against science, because they say that we've only been Homo sapiens for 47,000 years. I think the pyramids are much older than that. I think we've been on this planet a lot longer than that, and I know there will be some of you that will completely agree with me. There'll be some that will say, no way, Gene, not having it. I'm a scientist at the end of the day. Well, what does that mean? I mean, it means that I've been trained or taught to understand, in my particular field, in science, natural sciences, which covers chemistry, physics, mathematics, earth science, astronomy, and a few of the fields. I've took extra lessons or level 2 studies in chemistry and physics. What does all that mean? It means nothing. It means that I've got I suppose a way of looking at things in life because of what I've studied, and I can compare that to some of the things that I've studied. It doesn't matter about religion, where I come from on that ground. I understand that the Muslim religion is 800 years old, Christian 2,000 years old, and there's been religions way before that. Well, I'll tell you this with regards to that. Let's clear up that one first. My religion is mathematics. Simple. I don't know how come I woke up one morning with an equation in my head. I shared it with you guys. The universal equation shows you quite simply that this universe operates on a system, and the underroots of that system is mathematics. Okay, let me put that into a simple perspective for a lot of you guys. Right, you can write the number 5 down in English, and you can write the number 5 down in Chinese language, and you can write the number 5 down in, I don't know, Eskimos or the Siberian tribe language, whatever. If you hold up 5 fingers and show that to somebody in another language, they will understand exactly how many things you are referring to. You can not only just use your fingers, you could put stones there and say 5. That's how many I want. The universe has its language, and the universe is obviously applying this language to the way in which it creates things. So there is a plan, there is an intelligent design, and there is, for that reason, conscious. Whether you believe in God or not, that equation, what I showed people, the universal equation, states that fact. Getting back to Egypt, this was my experience from Egypt. From sort of intelligent, I suppose. If you think I'm intelligent, then I'm an unusual person. Let's just put it that way. I know I am. I absolutely know I'm different to a lot of people because of what I've done in my life. I went out my way and taught myself electronics, taught myself programming. I can podcast complete bits and put them back together again. Some of the, let's go back 8 years ago, I was buying and selling Audi TTs, and the only way I could see I could make some money out of this was buying them broken. So I was buying them with the cams broke, various other engine problems. And before long, I'd accumulated some second-hand stock of engines, and I was just ripping bits out, like pistons, and I was just and valves, and these are the things that a lot of workshops, the jobs they don't do, but I was every month repairing at least one of these. It took me a month to do it. I'd strip the engine down. The reason why I stopped is because where I live, it's not permitted for you to work on cars as though you own a garage. So, it come to an end. That's how I made my money then. But, I'm just trying to demonstrate to you that the level of, my abilities stretched to that extreme. Even more so, working with 3D CAD programs and using 3D printers and things like that. I'm very fluent in that. I have to do that because, our muon detectors have an encasement that is 3D printed. Some of the Clydra silver generators that I've built have a 3D printed embodiment. So you get an idea from where I come from. So you're listening to a guy that has done a lot, seen a lot, and I suppose I'm still intrigued. I'm still looking out there for the unusual. I've had some unusual experiences. I'll tell you about one, and I've mentioned this before. In my parents' back garden, standing there in the garden path, one day with my father, we saw in the sky what looked like a large, I don't know, okay, let's use that term because a lot of people have, it's a cigar shape object, just to describe a cylinder long looking vehicle in the sky at a distance. There was like this, it was like this thing had just came through the Earth's atmosphere. It seemed as though it was very hot because of the smoke that was trailing underneath it. And it went clouds moved in front of our vision of it, and we never seen it after that. And I said to my dad, it could have been anything, really, couldn't it? But we both saw it. We both was discussing that we'd saw it, and then not even 4 meters in front of us came a meter in diameter sphere, pill shaped in colour, the colour of a pill. It was exactly the same shape, and it manoeuvred from round the tree in front of us and then rose above the rooftops and flew over the roofs. So me and my father just looked at each other and we said, did you see what I saw? And we said yes, this is pearl shape, yeah, spherical in shape, yeah, no noise. So I've got an idea or a clear thinking of that there is something else in our world around us. It is very prepared to show off a little and demonstrate its abilities. I don't know what it was we saw that day. I've pondered for about 10 years now, having seen that, what it was we saw. Was it super technology? Was it a drone? Was it a drone from other worlds? Was it actually a livable entity? Was it actually a creature from somewhere else? We don't know, is the answer. But what I will say, and I know it's annoyed a lot of people because the the mentality around Egypt is that this is one of the world's wonders. I'll just say this, you know, I've actually touched the Great Pyramid. I've been right up there and close to the Sphinx, and by the way, it's nothing like that, right? What you're seeing there in this picture, the Sphinx is encased in walls around it now. The only way you get to see the Sphinx is by paying to get to see it. The only way you get to see the pyramids is by paying to see them. This really infused me with regards to a monument here in the UK that we've got, that now, you know, we have to pay to see it. These are things that was obviously, you know, taken a great deal of time and effort to make, and the whole reason of that is so that they could be viewed. And what annoys me about all this is that now we're charged to view it. If you look at this picture, it doesn't actually not badly represent the true Sphinx. You know, with them big long arms at the front there that have obviously been rejuvenated, and this is what Egyptians are doing to all their monuments right now. They are rejuvenating them. So what you are going to see in the future is something more impressive than what it actually was, and I think that that is a crime historically, because what we're looking at is not something as it originally was, it's something as somebody thought it should be, and that is a crime. Like I say, there was a comment in the last video done regarding Graham Hancock. But the truth is, in my opinion, is that, you know, regardless of what Graham Hancock thinks, and the late Zachariah Sitchin thought, excuse me, yeah, let's talk about Zachariah Sitchin. He was the one that was interested in the Sumerian language. Goes back, I believe, a lot further than what Egypt does. Egypt wants to argue that they've got the only oldest written human language on this planet, but you know what was found in Iraq? Some clay tablets. And what was remarkable about those clay tablets is that they explained all their history, and what shocked scientists was that they claimed that the Anunnaki were from a world called Nibiru, and you know, the reason why they was here is to mine for gold, because they needed it to repair their atmosphere. That is what was written many years before the Egyptian pyramids were built. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not, but I don't think that the Egyptians had the oldest language. They like to think that they have, but you know, there was those tablets that was discovered in Iraq many years ago. You know, we're living in a strange old time right now. You know, I know a lot of you are going to go to work today. A lot of you are going to do your normal duties at home. But you know what? At some point, you're not going to be able to do this. This is just a theatre. You understand that, don't you? You know, a lot of people have already understood that. You know, the millions that were displaced in the floods in China, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Florida recently, already understand that. You know, the reality of life is, you know, being able to eat, I don't know, keep yourself clean to some hygienic level. If you're lucky enough to have a partner, you know, share those experiences with that person. But it's all temporarily, you know that. I'm telling you now, you can close your eyes and this earth will very quickly disappear around our sun in the centre of our solar system, 10 times. And then you think about it again, you think, whoa, my goodness, 10 years have gone past. And everything that you are collecting right now in your life, your houses, your pensions, which are, and you know this, always out there for a rapist to come along and steal. We've seen Lehman Brothers collapse in 2008. Now we are definitely going through another recession. The world won't admit it, because once admittance is transmitted to most of us, it is over, because then people really pucker up. What they're hoping is that people continue as normal, but no, we're in a recession, a major recession. The Bank of England over here in the UK had to intervene the other day, because the dollar almost outbeat the sterling pound, the GDP. It nearly beat it. It went down to, from what I remember, $1.06 to £1 sterling. And everyone's pensions was at risk. So, the British government had to pump in something like £75 billion to recover it. And it's only going to be short term, that recovery, because what's happening around the world, because of the energy crisis, because of the do-gooders want to make sure that CO2, the biggest gas element, enemy of the world, is eradicated. It's going to cost us a lot more than that. It's going to cost everybody everything, and that won't be enough, because of the fact that CO2 is just 0.4% of the atmospheric gas in our atmosphere, and we're responsible for 0.12% of that. The land and oceans put out way more gigatons every year than what we could ever possibly dream of producing. So it's a scam, but the scam runs back to even Egyptian times. It's a good job, a good idea that we put these photos up and talked about Egypt, because this has been going on for a long time. There have been many pharaohs and kings that was fortunate because of who there was and what they was able to achieve to, have the luxuries that they do. And we see many pharaohs, many fortunate people, and that worship this capital bullshit system that we're all in, because the only way in which things like that could ever exist for them is that most of us work for minimum salary and keep us running round on that wheel constantly. So, Graham Hancock, if he wants to bull up fucking Egypt, let him carry on, because there's nothing special about it. I've touched actually the Great Pyramids. I've been to Luxor, I've been to Cairo and Hongara, so I have been pretty much all the interesting places in Egypt. Not seen every temple, admittedly, but also this is that the Great Pyramids were supposed to be tombs where pharaohs or kings got buried, but what I saw was nothing of the sort. If you went into the pyramids, you wouldn't see hieroglyphs going all the way up to the stairs as you would if you went to the Valley of the Kings, where they were buried, because all the way down on either side of the walls and the ceiling's painted with stars. The walls have hieroglyphs and pictures and Egyptian writing all the way down them. You don't see that in the Great Pyramid. On the way up to the King's chamber, on the way up to the Queen's chamber, you don't see anything. There's nothing there. That's because these fraudsters in Egypt inherited those pyramids. They were there way, way, way before the Egyptian people. They do not own those pyramids. They are just a nation of selling their opinion. That's all Egyptian is. When that was my view, I was super disappointed. You think that the stones that they moved and built the pyramids out of are such a colossal great size. They're not. They're all random sizes. Some of them would weigh less than your engine block in your car. That's the truth. You want to be impressed by something more than that, go to England instead of Egypt. Have a look at the Stonehenge monument. Have a look at the size of the Saracens and compare the Saracen blocks with those Egypt blocks. Go to Christmas Island and watch what you see with all those dom-doms that are placed all around, Christmas Island. They were carved in a single piece. The dom-doms in Egypt were carved out of many blocks. They're not that great. Somebody who was here well before us all on this planet was much more capable than what the Egyptians are, and they're cheating us by saying this is one of the 7 wonders of the world and that they are proclaiming it's theirs, because I say bullshit. I think I've demonstrated why those pyramids don't belong to Egyptian culture, because there is no hieroglyphs. There is nothing in the king's chamber. Absolutely nothing. All the kings were buried on the other side of the Nile, because unless people realise something about Egypt, is that one side of the Nile was classed as the valley of or the land of the dead, the other side was classed as the land of the living. And that's why a lot of the Egyptian tombs were built on the one side of the Nile and the others were built on the other. So there you go. There's no need, unless you really have to see it for yourself to understand, there's no need to visit Egypt. They are milking it as a country. Their biggest income comes from, their monuments, their historic monuments. That's where they make their money. Their second biggest industry is sugarcane. And if you do go to Egypt, it is convenient to fly from, say, Hongara to Cairo or even Luxor. Don't. Get yourself in one of the coaches, pack your own food, make your own lunch bag, because otherwise you'll be food poisoned. And you'll see exactly what I've told you. This country is undeveloped because of its government's corruption. It hasn't spread its wealth to its people. It's left them literally in the desert, in the dust. That's Egypt. Nothing lives within a few square miles of the main river that runs through it, the Nile. And even that has now been controlled by the government. That's why it doesn't flood every year like it used to. Do I have anything positive to say about Egypt? Well, despite the people having very little, they still seem welcome, for sure, to take your dollars off you. But they are genuinely, they make an attempt to be friendly. But let's face it, they are more for Russians, and Russians have had a lot to do in their recent history than what any other country has. So they're more for the Russians than they are anyone else. When I was there at Cairo, looking at the pyramids, I saw every nationality you can imagine. So This is massively attracting people to it. And I think it's because of the stories that have been told about it. You know, it's you know, people have made this out to be something more than what it is. You know, I've always been one that has spoke a lot and highly of Egypt. You know, this is another thing as well. You know, the tour guide who was, you know, they have to, by the way, to become tour guides, they have to take almost a degree, I think it is, in the history, so that they can talk. I mean, the one that we was with could actually read the hieroglyphs. He was reading the hieroglyphs and explaining it to us. But where was I going with this? You know, I was about to make a point, but I can't remember what I was going to say. I was disappointed because I thought I'd see enormous blocks that human beings couldn't put together, but what I saw was random blocks. And when I looked up the corner of the pyramid, I saw a crooked line all the way up to the apex. You know, I knew that this wasn't done by any other than human beings. Absolutely was achievable, and in the time period which they probably state it was achievable in. You know, these blocks are not like what you're led to believe, where you cannot get your credit card in the gaps of them, because you could fit your whole hand in the gaps of some of these blocks. You know, even after, you know, 4,500 years of weathering would have ensured that some of this minerals that would have washed off the rocks during rare periods of rain time, you know, would have solidified into the gaps and made them look like there was unable to put a credit card in. But they're not. Even to this day, you can still whack your hand in there. You know, there is nothing spectacular about the Great Pyramid. Yes, you know, some of the work I've done shows a lot of things astronomical with regards to the pyramids, but we can't take that away from them, because, you know, they obviously had access to sight and being able to view the stars from their perspective on the night. Why wouldn't you build it in something that you saw in the stars? Bring the heavens down to earth, because that would be something special, wouldn't it? Anyhow, you know, if my overview of, you know, the Egyptians and, you know, the artifacts that they've got has put you off me and you don't like my explanation, then that's fine. You know what? I was equally disappointed when I saw Stonehenge and I touched actually those rocks. We do have some things in our world that really do defy an explanation, and I'll just point you in the direction of one of them. In the Asker Plains, there is a mountain that has been levelled off, like somebody came along with a huge knife and levelled it completely off. That, to me, is a mystery. You'd look at that up maybe in the next few minutes on YouTube. You're going to come across it. The Nazca Plain drawings, yeah, they're explainable. It does seem that these people were trying to attract people from above because of the grandeur of the size of these drawings on the Nazca Plains. But whatever it was that removed the top of that mountain, just like a slice of cheese, something came along and removed the top of it. and left it level whilst all the other mountains around it are not so, is, I think, a real human wonder.